I'm glad to welcome you here in Europe, in Council of Europe studio. 1 year and 2 months after the tragical assassination against the famous political figure, former Vice Prime Minister of Russia, famous Democrat who contributed so much for democratic Russia in the 90s, Boris Nemtsov. You are known for the last 15 years like his personal lawyer, and you are very known during last horrible case of assassination against Boris Nemtsov, being a lawyer of his daughter Zhana Nemcova. Yeah. So now we have pending in this house the possible resolution on the table about Nemtsov death, and my question will be how the procedure, domestic procedure in Russia is pending, and how you are looking to the juridical activities of your authorities, and how you can summarize the last investigation to tragic assassination and killing of Boris Nemtsov. Sir.
So you are quite right. First of all, thank you for invitation. First of all, I would like to say that really on the 27th of February, our friend and Russian opposition leader, Mr. Boris Nemtsov, was killed just near the Kremlin, wall in 200 meters. It is impossible to be more in the center of Moscow than at that place. And so a few days after the assassination, early in March of the last year, of the 2015, 5 suspects were apprehended, all of them coming from Chechnya, and being close to the inner circle, to the entourage of Ramzan Kadyrov, who is the contemporary head of Chechen Republic. And all of them are charged under the Article 105 of the Russian Criminal Code. It's a contract killing by a group. But all of these 5 arrestees are just only the perpetrators. There are absolutely no organizers or sponsors of this assassination among this group. And from that time, more than 1 year from this period, from the March of the last year, no other suspects have been arrested ever since. No sponsors or organizers of this killing have been identified either. So it's a great problem of this investigation procedure, because our investigation committee, who is responsible for this investigation procedure, has not identified the sponsors or organizers, but all of the friends, the lawyers of Zhana Nemcova, who is claimed the victim of this crime. We are his lawyers, me, Vadim Prochorov, and my friend and colleague Olga Mikhailova. Unfortunately, we have no any information about identify of any sponsors or organizers, but we are absolutely sure that the traces of this crime lead to the inner circle of Mr. Ramzan Kadyrov. And so we are absolutely sure that it is necessary to force our powers, by the legal methods, of course, to make any necessary steps towards the real identifying of sponsors and organizers of this assassination, who no doubt belong to the inner circle of Mr. Ramzan Kadyrov, who is the head of Chechen Republic.
Yes, sir. So, looking to the fact that 1 year and 2 months your authorities spent trying to investigate, did you think it's come the time for international community look into deeper to the case? And well, we are waiting for the last outcomes, and we are waiting for the outcomes, just you pointed, who make orders for those paid killers to kill one of the most famous Russian democratic figure. So tell me, please, about your reaction, like a leading lawyer in Russia, when the international community should start our investigation in this case.
Sir, I'm absolutely sure that it's necessary to pay the maximum attention to this problem because, unfortunately, our powers themselves are not very interested in the real investigation of this assassination, as I have told you, because there is no doubt that the traces of this assassination lead to the inner circle of Mr. Kadyrov. I think that the contemporary power of Russian Federation, our president, doesn't want to have any problems with him just now. And maybe that's one of the reasons why this, about the difficulties of this investigation, of this assassination, and it's absolutely necessary to pay attention to all of the political murders. I could remind you that unfortunately sometimes there were political murders, primarily in the countries of the third world. For example, Mr. Rafik Hariri, who has been the Prime Minister of Lebanon, Mr. Benazir Bhutto, the leader of Pakistan opposition, and so on. Fortunately, it is very rare in the European country. And I think that the Russian Federation is a European country, it's a member of Council of Europe, and it's absolutely necessary to provide any official legal mechanism of supervision over the investigation, much more that the Russian authorities are not successful. And I could only remind that it's an official position, official point of view of our authorities, of our investigative committee, that all of these arrestees are just only perpetrators, but they have their own personal motives to kill Boris Nemtsov. Right. And who are the organizers? Who are the sponsors? Why can't you find them and identify them? And much more, there are any evidences among the case file, yes. In the case file, that all of the traces lead to the high-ranking officials of Chechen Republic. And in this situation, it's absolutely necessary to pay international attention to this problem, to promote maybe new legal mechanisms of the supervision over this investigation, and is absolutely necessary to promote procedure of the special report and special reporter inside Parliamentary Assembly. Because I could remind that a procedure involving the delivery of a special report of this matter here in Parliamentary Assembly has already been launched in the Assembly, and more than 60 members, MPs, from various fractions voted for the application of this mechanism. Just now, devoted specially to the problem of the investigation of this assassination of Boris Nemtsov. But for some reasons, I don't know exactly, this mechanism is very slow, but it's necessary to provide them.
Thank you. So, from our point of view, we should make summarizing that, we should make our remark that the technicians, the hired killers, are more or less known in the case, but those who gave orders, they're unknown. So
officially unknown.
Officially unknown. Yes. It's okay. So in this case. What do you think, how finally the Russian Federation will end the procedure of juridical investigation, and when the court will start to do what the court should do, the bringing final decisions and final orders about this most horrible political assassination, or one of the most horrible political assassination in the 21st century?
So, as to the problems of Russian Federation in this field, that I could tell that by present investigative activities of these in criminal proceedings against 5 perpetrators of the assassination have been completed, just against their perpetrators. And the criminal case file has been submitted for review of the lawyers of Zhana Nemcova, Vadim Prochorov and Olga Mikhailova. And we are currently drafting our requests and motions. And on the other hand, the defendants of those arrestees are also starting the case file just now. After that, upon the completion of this stage, the prosecutor is expected to approve the indictment, and the criminal case file is going to be submitted to the trial to the Moscow military court. Why just to the military court? Because the main suspect, Zaur Ladaev, has been an officer of Battalion Sever. It's a unit of the internal troops of the Russian Federation. And so he has served as a military officer. That's why it will be the military court. And at the same time, criminal case against unidentified organizers and sponsors of the assassination has been disjoined from the above criminal case. It was disjoined, and no one has apprehended, and hardly any investigative activity has been undertaken, unfortunately. And so obviously the domestic authorities are not motivated to conduct the necessary investigation involving the inner circle of Mr. Kadyrov, who is the head of Chechen Republic. So that's why it's absolutely necessary to pay international attention to this procedure. The criminal procedure is going on, but no identified sponsors and organizers, and it's absolutely necessary to pay attention to this problem.
Okay, so in this case, we have on our table the tomorrow agenda in Council of Europe, Parliamentary Assembly, and we just saw that among other side events we have Mr. Yashin from Moscow report his own done investigation and fact-finding mission in Chechnya, who can be more clarifying the circumstances and environment in which such crimes are possible. So in this case, how we can comment Mr. Yashin report, just will be now presented to Parliamentary Assembly?
It seems to me that it's a very good idea to present this report of Ilya Yashin, our friend, just here in the Parliamentary Assembly of Europe. I could remind that Russia is still a member of Council of Europe, and it's our home. It's a parliamentary assembly also for our country, and so it's necessary to pay problems if we have any problems in our country. So also the problems concerned with the ruling of Mr. Ramzan Kadyrov in Chechnya. It seems to me that the report of Ilya Yashin is very interesting. It's a good compilation of any facts of corruption of human rights in Chechnya. One of the chapter of this report is devoted just to the problem of the assassination of Mr. Nemcovo. And so on, and it's just not only one problem in Chechnya, in Chechen Republic, in the connected with the higher ranking officials of this republic. So it's necessary to pay attention, because the security of our Russian society is at the same time is the security of the European community. Because tomorrow Ilya Yashin could tell you that some of the murders of Mr. Ramzan Kadyrov's enemies has been in Europe. For example, in Austria, in Vienna. In some countries of the Middle East, for example, in Qatar, in the Emirates, and so on. So it's just the international problem. It's the problem of the secure society in Europe, in the Middle East, and so on and so on. So it's necessary to pay attention to the investigation of all of the crimes which traces lead towards Chechnya and its higher-ranking officials.
Yes, so if you're talking about high-ranking officials, the question is very simple. When and who will investigate and question Mr. Governor Kadyrov? Who will do that? And who will put the questionnaire to him? And my question is, how is Moscow courts are doing about that?
So it's a very good question, because, for example, we are the lawyers of Zhanna Nemcova put the request to the investigative committee to question Mr. Kadyrov and his inner circle. It has been just 1 year ago. It has been on the 22nd of April of last year. But unfortunately, our investigative committee refused. neglected our requested, and our application to the court was also refused and neglected. Sir, it seems to me that it is absolutely necessary that our Russian federal powers and the international community pay attention to the problem of the necessity of questioning and investigative activity towards the inner circle of Mr. Kadyrov.
Thank you. And the last absolutely short question. We were extremely worried in this house looking that President Putin met Constitutional Court and tried to improvise on the level of priority between Russian Constitutional Court and the Human Rights Court here in Strasbourg. So how we can tell about environment in Moscow when priority, the officially signed by Russia like member of Council of Europe during the joining the Council of Europe, that Human Rights Court here in Strasbourg have upper hand for against domestic justice. How you will reacting to the case when some people in Russia, from Russian government, trying to declare that Russian justice have upper hand against European justice?
I think that this problem has decided 23 years ago, when our constitution has established in 1993, because the Article 15 of our constitution, chapter 4, declares the priority of the international obligation and international commitments and international legislation over the Russian sovereign legislation when we are the member of any treaties, any conventions. So if we are the member of Council of Europe, so we have adopted the European Convention, and it is absolutely necessary to be in the legal field of this convention. But unfortunately, some of our officials really dislike this fact.
So thank you so much, and we thank you so for your brave activities in such difficult circumstances, in such difficult environment in Moscow. We hope that your committed Democrats will prevail with their mission build civil society in your country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.